Chris Sims having a hard time with the play call back when he was a rookie last night. The Raiders ultimately had a hard time with the Chiefs, although you have to give Las Vegas credit.
You do.
They had the Chiefs on the ropes multiple times. They just couldn't punch them through. And at one point I thought, are they really going to pull off a sweep? Are they really going to do it? Are they going to sweep the Chiefs? Is that really going to happen?
Too.
No, then it's like, no, that's just not going to happen. Not with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid around. It's not going to happen.
No, I mean, I was sitting there, Mike, to your thought going, wait, what great teams have we seen through history who have kryptonite in their own division, right? And the first team that came to my mind was like my dad with the Eagles of the late 80s, early 90s, right? They won 2 Super Bowls, but, man, they couldn't beat the damn Eagles. Twice a year, it was just brutal. It is rare, but within divisional football and a guy like Jon Gruden, and he knows who he's competing against, he's building a team, trying to build a team that is the kryptonite to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know we'll get into it here in a second, but man, there's a lot, like you said, to be happy about if you're a Raider and just the trajectory of where their football team and organization is going.
Yeah, you have to feel like you're bumping up against a ceiling, but at least you're bumping up against
Right.
the ceiling instead of sitting in the corner staring up at it 12 feet away. They are making progress, unlike the other teams in their division, so that's good news. It is Pro Football Talk Live on the Monday of Thanksgiving week. Peacock, Sirius XM 211, live, NBCSN. If you're watching it on the re-air, it's live as far as you're concerned. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Grab a seat, grab a beverage, grab a donut or whatever, and then at 7 p.m. local time in the UK and Ireland, grab your dinner. Grab your what do they eat? I don't know what they eat.
They eat
Fish
dinner.
and chips?
I'm pretty
Is
sure
that
they
it?
eat
Fish
dinner
and
over
chips?
there.
I know they eat dinner, but I'm trying to think. They may call it supper. You never know. Don't get me started on the whole supper-dinner thing. But I'm just trying to think of a signature meal. Bangers and mash, right? That I've always enjoyed that. Although fish and chips. Let's just stick with fish and chips.
I think so.
Anyway, hello to our friends in the UK and Ireland who have been really locked in this season. And I see that the schedule every week. It's tweeted out by the NFL's UK account. And I don't have to do the math. It shows the local times. I'm thinking these folks are serious. The game started 6 p.m., 9 p.m., 1 a.m. And I hear from folks there all the time. They're locked in watching all night long. What a weird kind of vampire schedule you have to be on to follow the NFL.
Seriously.
But they're on lockdown. They're on lockdown
Oh,
in the UK.
are they? I
So
didn't know
they appreciate us. They
Right.
appreciate the NFL, and we appreciate them for giving us some of their time and attention. All right, let's get back to that game. Game of the day, Chiefs and the Raiders, 35-31. The Chiefs win the game. Mahomes to Kelce to pull it out. Kelce ends up wide open, and I think it's that threat, the play that we showed in the pregame of Patrick Mahomes running the ball, that threat of him running sucks the defenders toward the line and leaves guys open, and that's what contributed to Travis Kelce just kind of standing in the end zone, the John Travolta meme from Pulp Fiction. There's nobody around him because, they abandoned him. They let him go when it looked like 15 was going to take off, and that was that. Lights out, game over, Chiefs win.
Yeah, well, Jonathan Abram. And, I mean, you said it. This is what makes Patrick Mahomes so dangerous. It's just the fact that he is so great at attacking the line of scrimmage. He is sneaky dangerous when he does decide to tuck it and run it. And Jonathan Abram saw that he had all that space. He's getting a little scared there, right? So he commits. Now, the one thing I'll say about that, too, and Jonathan Abram's a hell of a player, as you know, but there's no timeouts at that moment, right? So why commit? Let him run 10 yards, whatever, maybe 12 yards, but not leave Travis Kelce in a huge voided area for a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who we know is the best in the league right now as far as seeing the field as he's extending plays. I mean, there's just nobody better. And, yeah, that was unbelievable just execution and everything about that last drive for the Chiefs. They're unreal. The way they can turn it on, step on the metal, pedal to the metal, and just make things happen in a flash.
I can only imagine that any and all planning that you engage in, any effort that you undertake to strategize, and to be aware going into the game, be aware of this, be aware of that. We know what he does. It all goes out the window when you see this blur that is number 15, who is constantly eyes down the field, constantly legs on the move, constantly putting you in a position where you're on a tightrope and you're going to fall off one side or the other. You're either going to give him the throw or you're going to give him the run. And he doesn't give you an opportunity to make that conscious decision that your film study and your meetings and everything you've done to load into your brain tells you what you need to do. But when you get out there, you can't do it. It's like we talk about with the scout team quarterback trying to mimic a great quarterback. You can do the scout team all you want. There's no replacement for facing the guy.
No.
And there's no way to simulate facing the guy.
No, you're right. There is no way. I mean, some of the damn throws he makes out on the edge and things like that where you go, oh, they're going to push him out of bounds. He's going to get sacked. What? It's a 20-yard completion. It's amazing. And I think, the game itself was amazing because the big thing, I just, of course, the touchdown, the way they drive there at the end to close the door, I mean, it's just status quo, really. I mean, I feel like it's like, hey, every few weeks we get to watch the Chiefs do amazing stuff at the end of a football game, and they'll win every time. I mean, but what's got to be disheartening, especially for the Raiders, you play a game like that as perfect as they played it. I mean, they played it about as perfect as you can play the Kansas City Chiefs, and in a lot of ways match up a right way where, we talk about the Chiefs being the Ravens' kryptonite and, other teams being kryptonite, whatever, right? I mean, that's what's got to be frustrating is they're on a night where you outplay them and really kind of show you're the kryptonite to their football team and you have the answer schematically on both sides of the ball, and you still lose because Kansas City shows they're able to adapt. Oh, you want to play coverage and drop out? Well, we'll just take these long drives and run and dink and dunk and dink and dunk. And it just shows the growth of Kansas City, I think, again, and just how dangerous they can be and how, what's the word, malleable? Is that right? Where they can just kind of change to different and adjust.
Wow.
I hope don't blow a fuse because I know Matt Casey just blew a fuse in the producer room.
I'm going to take full credit for that one because I use that word from time to time. So it shows that just kind of hanging around somebody who has a better understanding of the English language, although that bar is extremely low. You picked up malleable. Thank you very much.
What about
that.
all the good football things I said there?
You said plenty of good football things, too. You say plenty more good football things than you realize, although don't put me in a position where I have to give you credit. I don't want to do that. We do have to give Mahomes credit. On the run, he was 9 for 15 for 105 yards. That was most by a quarterback this season. And that's the baseball player in him coming out. I remember talking to him about this 2 years ago when we first were witnessing the brilliance that is Patrick Mahomes, a brilliance to which we've become somewhat numb, and I hope we don't get to that point where we take it for granted. I hope that doesn't happen with Kyler Murray. I hope it doesn't happen with Patrick Mahomes. I hope it doesn't happen with any of the great quarterbacks, but it's the baseball. It's the shortstop.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about all the things that quarterback coaches obsess over with stance and posture and mechanics and footwork. No, shortstop's job is get the ball in the glove, get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. It doesn't matter where your body is. It doesn't matter where your arm is. And you're on the run, you're on the move. And I think that's why he does what he does so flawlessly and effortlessly. That's a shortstop playing quarterback, and that's never going to change.
No, you're right. It's not. He's a wheeler and a dealer, right? I mean, that's what he is, a shortstop. Hey, double play, back, this way, that way, whatever. Feeder cockeyed, like you said, sidearm throw. He does it all. That's what Kyler Murray has too. And, and just to, talk about the fact even more, he grips the football in a very rare way in which very few quarterbacks really in the history of the sport ever gripped it. He makes it to where it's really got the top of the ball, the really small part, and I think it's because of what you're saying. He wants it to feel small like a baseball, so he can do those type of things you're talking about, Mike, and wheel and deal and RPOs, and I'm going to pull it out, and I can just flick my wrist and throw a 10-yard slant, whatever. It's amazing, Andy Reid, where they've grown as an offense. His maturity still at a young age, not being over-aggressive, really taking what's there to be had all night long. And, hey, as far as TV is concerned, that was like one of the most fun verbal chess matches we heard between two quarterbacks, I think, ever. I mean, come on. All the stuff Derek Carr and Patrick Mahomes were doing. I mean, you want to talk about being a general. They were directing more traffic on every play last night than any game I can remember two quarterbacks going back and forth. It was constant. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I do have to give Derek Carr some credit
Yeah.
because it almost seems like the Mahomes challenge is pushing him to a higher level than he otherwise would ever have been at. That in failure and in striving to match someone, you're getting more out of yourself than when you're being pushed from below. And, we had been talking about the Raiders with more of a ground and pound in recent weeks. Not when it's time to face the Kansas City Chiefs. That's when it's time to unleash Derek Carr. There he is, averaging 311 yards per game in the 2 contests against the Chiefs, 6 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, and the only 2 interceptions of the year for Mahomes coming against the Las Vegas Raiders. So Jon Gruden's figuring something out.
No doubt.
When it comes to hanging with the Chiefs. And, potentially, and this is where these games can echo beyond last night, maybe you're putting something on film that someone else is going to emulate or flat out copy that helps you in slowing down the Chiefs if you're the Steelers, if you're the Bills, if you're somebody who's crossing paths with them in January.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's going to be certain things that certainly will be taken from other teams. I think that we saw that even after they lost to the Raiders the first time. And I think that's why you've seen that Chiefs offense evolve to what we saw last night, where Chris Collinsworth is sitting there going, look, Derek Carr's throwing it deep, the Chiefs are throwing it short. Well, yeah, yeah. But that's because that was their next chess move after that Raiders loss in Week 5 earlier in the year. They realized, ooh, wow, they really took away all our deep shots. They played coverage. They did a lot of good things. We need more plays to attack the underneath area of the field when people play us like that. And they've really grown that part of their playbook. That's where, it's awesome to see as far as Kansas City's concerned and all the first downs they get and the drives. I mean, we're not used to seeing them doing 12-play 91, 16-play 93. They're usually like 4 plays 93, 2 minutes and 45 seconds, 35-yard touchdown pass to cap it off by Mahomes. That's the kind of drives we usually see from the Chiefs. So that was really impressive. And Mike, back to like what you were saying with the Raiders, because you said some things that really popped to me. I think Gruden has figured them out. They are building a team, as you've said all along, to compete with Kansas City. They know who the Kings are. So they've built a team, hey, good secondary, good offensive line, can do those things. And to the other thing you said, Gruden cracked the code. He's cracked it with what I saw last night. I could just tell with the way him and Derek Carr were talking where he is at a spot with Steve Spagnuolo knowing, man, they're the Chiefs. He's studied them so hard in the offseason and all that. They were all over some of the stuff the Chiefs were trying to do on defense. You saw it all night long. It almost seemed like they could not be stopped, the Raiders, really. He had the right answer every move. And Spagnuolo is pretty creative and smart that way. But I just know when Gruden and Derek Carr and just the way they were barking out plays and talking that they had it last night. They had the feel, and that's why it's got to be discouraging to lose a game like that.
Yeah, they've scored 71 points in 2 games against the Chiefs this year. And we talked about this in the offseason when the Broncos were loading up with receivers, the idea that you're never going to shut the Chiefs down. Your only way to beat them is to fight fire with fire and make an offense that can match up with the Kansas City defense and outscore the Kansas City offense. That's the only way you're going to win. And it happened back in Week 5, and it almost happened again last night. They gave them their absolute best shot. And, we've talked about hoping for a Saints-Buccaneers third game, even though the Saints have swept Tampa Bay. This is the true rubber match, potentially, if the Raiders and the Chiefs should cross paths at Arrowhead Stadium in January. And I'm kind of hoping for a third match between the Raiders and the Chiefs. And at 6-4, I mean, look, I know the Raiders aren't feeling good about what ultimately happened last night. They wanted a win. It would have changed everything if they had pulled off that victory. But they still have to, when the dust settles, feel pretty good about where they are and how far they've come in a short period of time. Their first season in Las Vegas, with all the issues they've dealt with, with all the COVID-19, the things that were self-inflicted on themselves and the things that they won't get in trouble for, like last week's issue with Cleveland Farrell that resulted in so many guys ending up being unavailable because they were on the COVID-19 reserve list. Let's hear from Coach Jon Gruden about the struggles they faced last week leading up to one of the biggest challenges of the season.
Well, it helps if we practice. Guys show up the day of the game. It's hard to enforce these things, but it goes back on me. We've got to get these men out on the field and correct these problems. But I couldn't be more proud of our football team, and I wouldn't trade any of our players for anybody. The effort that they've given us is tremendous. We've got to eliminate the penalties, and that starts with me.
It's like he was doing an interview with 60 Minutes and he did everything but change his voice.
Seriously.
I've never seen him like that before, and I don't know whether he was just making a statement. I don't know what he was doing.
Probably a little bit of both.
Or if he just wanted to crawl in a hole after what happened last night, and that was the next best thing to crawling in a hole. But when you don't have most of your defense for the full week, and I saw a report over the weekend, and this is something we joked about previously with this notion of guys being on the COVID-19 reserve list and unable to practice, like they'd have a robot out there with a camera on it and a screen, so the guy, you can sit, you can put the guy on the field. I guess they had laptops out there where they were letting defensive backs see what was going on. So you do what you have to do to try to make guys comfortable when they can't physically be on the field, and they've done a nice job of that. And they've got experience at it. That's the problem. They had to do it with their offensive line earlier this year. That didn't work out. And then they had to do it with their defense. But you get this team into a normal year when they can have fans present, when you don't have to worry about the COVID issues. I don't know. Is that good for 1 or 2 wins? It probably is.
Yeah, maybe. There's no doubt. Either way, I think I'm sold on the fact of the Raiders are legit playoff team, and I think a team that could make some noise in the playoffs. I do. First off, like you said, you got to give them credit for the way they continue to battle. It's a young football team. They've fought a lot of adversity. Yeah, some of it is a little of their own arrogance with COVID-19 and all that, definitely. But man, do they play hard. There's not a lot of teams in football you can sit here and say they've beaten the Saints and the Chiefs. They lost another game to the Bucs because of even worse circumstances with not being able to practice because of COVID and all those issues. But the way their schedule sets up here down the stretch, and I know Al and Chris talked about it last night, it is, pretty damn good. It's the easiest in the AFC. They can very easily, run off and end up winning 5 out of the last 6, 4 out of the last 6. Now, does that get in the playoffs here in the AFC? I don't know, but I do think that they're the type of team that's built to be a pain in the butt for just about anybody in the AFC playoffs this year with the way they run the ball and the way, like you mentioned already, Derek Carr and Jon Gruden are kind of executing that offense.
And I do have to give Jon Gruden credit for the work he's done with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
There were legitimate and widespread concerns 3 years ago that Carr and Gruden would never be able to coexist, that Carr would crumble under the weight of the guy that you experienced in Tampa Bay. But to his credit, Gruden has changed his approach deliberately and consciously because he knew he had to make it work with Carr. Because even though, and you have said it before, Jon Gruden, quarterback hoarder,
right,
always looking, always smitten, always infatuated with some other quarterback. It gets back to the old Stephen Stills song, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. He loves Derek Carr because that's who he has, and he's gotten the most out of him by changing his ways and drawing it out of Carr and quietly and slowly turning him into almost a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there yet,
all right,
but he's almost there.
Yeah, he's shown a lot of the signs. He's as we talked about last week with my top 10 quarterback list and all that, Derek Carr, was the next guy to me. He was at number 11.
I thought it was Matt Ryan.
It was those two, but no, it was Derek Carr was number 11. I'll show you the piece of paper, but you're a funny guy. He was very close. All right. But either way, I agree with you. And last night really showed you what Derek Carr is becoming and has become in this short period of time with Jon Gruden. First off, I think you're right. Gruden realized he had to make it work. He was, I think, also had to realize that he was going to have a bad reputation if it was another quarterback where it just didn't seem to work the right way. He was teetering on, the line of people just going, oh, he always blames the quarterback. It's always the quarterback's fault. It's never his fault, blah, 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 blah. Well, no, he hung in there with this guy. And the attitude, the demeanor, the control of the offense, it's exactly what Gruden wants. This is how he talks to you in the meeting room, quarterback meeting room. he's really got him where he wants. And that first time out, do you remember the first drive of the game? Derek Carr, he's getting a little chess match with the Chiefs at the line of scrimmage, and he ends up having to call timeout real quick right before it. And he's walking over there, and he's going to talk to Gruden, and he stops. And he goes, I got it. I got it. Like, he's like, I got it. Don't worry. Yes, that was a tough one, whatever. I got it. Like, I'm just going to stay here. I don't need to go over there, and, like, we have to, rehearse life one more time. And to me, that showed, too, that he's in a spot where he's so comfortable. He's not flustered by anything, and he can sit there and talk and match wits with Gruden about all the X's and O's and be in a really comfortable spot. And I think that's where they are, and that's why they're kind of dangerous right now.
And he's developing the demeanor that Gruden is always looking
Definitely.
for. Gruden that's the irony,
jerk.
and I do think I'm using it properly. Gruden is trying to develop a quarterback who eventually will say to Gruden, shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Go over there and sit down. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, you're standing or you're sitting? I can't tell. You're so short. Just get out of here and leave me alone. I got this. Right? So that's what he wants.
Yes,
and that's what he may have in Derek Carr now.
Yes.
Now all Carr has to do is block him on Twitter.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.